Morning glory, evening grace, America. I'm Hugh on a Thursday that's pretty significant. The House passed the Senate's budget. We're going to talk about that today. We're going to catch up on all the latest news from the White House. But I want to begin today with United States Senator John Cornyn of the great state of Texas. Senator, good to see you. Welcome. Always a friend of the program. Senator, before you say a word, I want to say I was stunned yesterday when you drew a primary challenge from Attorney General Paxton. No offense to the AG. I've known him a long time. You're our guy in the Senate. I think every conservative and every center right to the most MAGA person is going to support you. Are you surprised? And by the way, I'm endorsing to what extent that matters to anyone in Texas. But are you surprised to draw a primary challenge?
Well, I've always had primaries, Hugh. I am a little surprised that someone would try to mislead the voters about my record. I'm very proud of my record supporting President Trump 92% of the time in his first term, responsible for helping him get the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act passed, confirming more than 200 federal judges, including 3 Supreme Court justices. And I've been proud to support the president's nominees for confirmation now in his second term. So unfortunately, there are those who are looking for opportunities, and they're going to twist the facts and maybe even abuse the facts to try to gain some advantage. But I'm ready to go. I've done it before and successfully. But thanks for your support.
Well, I'm glad to give it because I think you've done a fabulous job for President Trump, for every Republican on every issue. You've been in and out of leadership. You're a senior on judiciary, senior on finance. People of Texas would be nuts to say, we want a rookie going up to the Senate, because seniority may be the most important thing in the Senate. It's an unusual body, but it matters.
Well, I have the scars to prove it, and been through a lot of battles over the years, and proud of my state and proud to represent 31 million Texans in the U.S. Senate. And I'm also proud of the fact my team, and it is a team effort, has been ranked the most effective Republican Senate office for a number of years. So when people need to get something done, we're there to help them get it done, and particularly for the folks I represent back home in Texas.
I want to remind the audience of one other thing. I believe Senator Cornyn is the only former state Supreme Court justice who serves in the Senate, which has mattered a lot when people like Justice Kavanaugh have come before the Judiciary Committee, when a very calm, measured, and very learned former state Supreme Court justice starts asking questions or rebutting slanders. And I would just hate to lose that position for you, Senator. In that position, I think it's in judiciary, you have introduced a bill to help amplify and make permanent President Trump's EO on illegal aliens who kill Americans. You want to tell us about that?
Yeah, there's a lot of things that the president can do through executive order, but there's some things he can't do, and we want to help implement this executive order. As you know, illegal aliens, unfortunately, have run rampant during the last administration with the open borders policy of the Biden administration, and we're now sort of seeing the consequences of that. Everyone from Laken Riley's death in Georgia to crimes being committed in communities all over the country, and fentanyl coming into the country, which is the #1 cause of death for young people between the age of 18 and 45. But one thing we ought to all be able to agree on is that when illegal aliens come to the United States and they commit murders, they ought to be subject to the death penalty. So we're going to provide legislative support for President Trump's executive action and get that done as soon as we possibly can.
I applaud that. I hope that moves through judiciary at the speed of light. Got a couple of questions for you, Senator, about the budget that got approved today by the House. That's the Senate's bill. I believe that means you on the Finance Committee will get a crack at the tax code. Is that work far advanced, or is it just beginning?
Well, I think in some ways, as hard as this was, it's just the beginning and maybe the easiest part of it. As you know, a budget is really, in the federal system, is just a framework. It's not spending. It's not actually doing the work. It's setting the ground rules, really, for what comes later, which is the reconciliation bills. That's where we extend the expiring provisions of the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. And by the way, if we didn't do that, it would be a tax increase on 62% of American taxpayers, several $1 trillion in increased taxes. That would be insult to injury on top of 40-year high inflation under the Biden administration, and we can't let that happen. So the Finance Committee is going to get to work along with our other committees. On the Judiciary Committee, we're going to provide additional resources for detention and for personnel to make sure that President Trump's border policies are implemented and don't lack for resources. We're also going to plus up defense spending because, as you know, it's the most dangerous world we've had since World War II. And I appreciate President Trump saying we need to invest in our militaries and we need to return to the Reagan principle of peace through strength, and reestablish deterrence.
If we can finish where we began, the advantages of seniority in the Senate is that you also become familiar with the rules. And Senator Cornyn was the whip for a long time, so he knows these very obscure and unusual rules. Senator Collins was on yesterday, and she gave me another tip on reconciliation that Appropriations Committee has nothing to do with it. I think reconciliation may be the most complicated procedure that the Senate has. Would you agree with me on that, Senator Cornyn?
I sure would. This goes back to a 1974 Budget Act, along with all the precedents, the Byrd Rule, all that stuff. But what your viewers need to understand is this is the difference between a multi-trillion-dollar tax increase or maintaining that. But we also need to start chipping away at the national debt. And this is the first meaningful opportunity we've had to try to begin to bend that debt curve in the last generation. So we can't miss this opportunity. And thanks to President Trump in the White House and majorities in both houses, I believe we have the opportunity to do it. And I think we cannot fail.
All right, now, Senator, let me just finish with a very, very obvious plug. I don't know if you've even got a website set up for your reelect, and I hope you're not in the Senate. Okay, what is that website? Because that's what people will want to help you with.
It's johncornyn.com.
I love easy websites. johncornyn.com. And small donors are welcome. Large donors are welcome. Everyone is welcome. And if you just want to get involved in the campaign, whether you're listening in San Antonio or Beaumont, Houston or Dallas, wherever you are in Texas, go to johncornyn.com. Senator, keep coming back throughout the primary and throughout the entire election cycle. Good to see you, Senator.
Thanks for your friendship and support, Hugh.